Hi all, and welcome back to Hungary. Sziasztok mindenkinek. I'm working on my Hungarian. Today I wanted to share with you a few goals that I've set for myself for 2025. These goals are something that have been inspired by a few failures from this last year and a few of the years previous to that. Now, my first goal is actually my biggest struggle, because that has to do with planting schedules. Most often, the struggle to do the follow-up planting is where I really have an issue. The initial planting, that always goes well. I'm inspired, I'm encouraged, I am, eager to plant. I am able to fill up all of my plugs, my trays, the pots, and it feels so good to just plant. However, what the issue is for me is the follow-up planting after, say, a week or two, a month. This is where I really struggle, because I fail to maintain that eagerness, that sense of drive to be able to keep on the planting schedule. What my goal is to be more intentional on focusing my efforts to a few hours per week to be able to follow up on these planting things. It's not just the hours, but it's the planning as well. That's a difficulty thing. I have a system that I've adapted and built in Excel or Google Sheets. It's good, but it's not ideal, that's for sure. The major failure that really has inspired me to talk about this was from this last year. I was eager in late February to get all of my seeds planted. I'm always excited to see them popping up and they become little seedlings. But my issue was when it was warmer or warm enough to put my seedlings out into my little greenhouse. It's not huge. I put them in there and they were doing great for a few days. I failed to keep up on checking the weather consistently and seeing what was going to happen. With that, I failed to unzip my greenhouse, and the seedlings, they got a little toasted and they ended up burning up, and pretty much all of them died off. Sans a few leek seeds which miraculously survived, but most of my seeds died. So when I did that follow-up seeding, the follow-up planting, that was excellent. Most of the seeds survived. However, the continuing of that process is where I failed. Because when I start to see these seedlings pop up, I start in my mind thinking, okay, where are these going to go? I start planting in the garden and not in the trays. So with that, I have set a goal to really focus on a method to follow, maybe a few methods to follow, to actually keep myself inspired and keep that drive, because I know that in April, May, that's where it gets more difficult for me, because I'm already in the garden, I'm weeding, at that point I'm harvesting a few things, and I lose focus on the rest of the year. I lose focus on the rest of the year. So going into 2025, I want to spend a little bit of time researching for different methods to not only organize the planting schedule, but to be able to stick to it and keep that drive, keep that focus. I do know that Kevin from Epic Gardening, Charles Dowding, and Ben from Grow Veg, they all have seed planters, garden planners, which I've not invested in yet. Ben, I know you've had that for a while. And Kevin and Charles, you have both released that this year, which was very exciting. But I do know there's a lot of different methods. Kevin from Epic Gardening, I've been following him for many, many years, seeing the evolution of his seed storage and his planting schedules. And it's been inspiring, but not quite inspiring enough to keep me inspired to keep planting that in that method. So If you have any suggestions, if you have any methods that you think that I might benefit from, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Hopefully I can correct these failures for 2025 to then look at a whole load of different failures for 2026. My next struggle is actually weeding, which I know is a struggle for most gardeners. And to mitigate this, my ultimate goal in my garden is to keep it as low to no-till as I possibly can. In the previous years, this has not been very much of an option because I was creating all of these beds, was working the soil to make it gardenable, make it workable. But going forward, I want to focus on as little soil disturbance as I possibly can. The reason behind this being that I know from a lot of research that no-till, low disturbance to the soil prevents weed pressure from coming up. One of the examples of this is actually Charles Dowding. He has famously popularized the no-till method, and he does a no-till versus till trial in 2 of his beds every year for almost 10 years now. Every year, the weed pressure in the no-till bed is a lot less than the tilled bed. Along with the no-till helping with the reduction of weeds, the soil is much healthier, and so the production actually goes up. This is evidenced in his trial as well. There's always more potatoes, more leeks. Everything is either bigger or there's more of them. So that is proof in the pudding that no-till method works for anyone who's willing to put in that lack of work, because it's easier too. You don't have to physically work the soil in, you just lay the compost on top. Who wouldn't want to do that? It makes life easier. The main issue with my weeding in the past few years has been bindweed, white goosefoot, and wild amaranth. While wild amaranth and white goosefoot are both edible plants, they have taken a hold here, and so that's been one. Those two have been plants that I've been trying to reduce the aggressiveness and where they're actually at. If it's in the yard, I don't care. Do what you want. But in the garden area, it does take away the nutrients from the plants that I actually want in my beds. So I try to reduce that. Was doing some research on white goosefoot, and I found out that it's a wild spinach. So it can be used as a wild spinach. So while I may not venture into the culinary side of things just yet with that, I will allow it a little bit more room, a little bit more grace to grow where it wants to then either give it to the chickens or give it to the rabbits. Maybe I will try a few bits here and there if I'm brave. The wild amaranth, I know that is something that is a popular grain. I am planning to give it a little bit more grace as well, because obviously the chickens love it. How do I phrase it? It's not a struggle. It's very difficult to actually harvest and winnow all of that. It's brutal. So I don't know if I want to actually go through that process. Regardless, it is edible, it's healthy, so I'm going to allow it grace where it wants. Bindweed. That is one of the weeds that I despise. I despise bindweed because it is so aggressive. It's so persistent, and I know that no-till will help with this because it's, again, Charles Dowding, he has a similar struggle. The bindweed has been aggressive in his place too. So I know that being consistent with pulling the little weeds or laying down black plastic to kill that works. And so I'm going to employ a few different methods. Maybe I will keep track of that and let you know the different approaches that I'm taking. If you want to see that, go ahead and let me know in the comments. This area behind me is actually where the bindweed has taken a hold. This last year, due to our watering issues, I allowed the bindweed to kind of have free rein in the pathways because I knew that was going to be a good ground cover and it will prevent the ground from drying out too much. I am fairly sure that I'm going to regret what I did last year because of that. But this year going forward, I want to really focus on the small bits of the bindweed because I know that that is going to be the most effective way of killing that, because it's been a struggle over the 2 years that I've lived here. And so I want to keep that negative pressure on the bindweed to hopefully take care of that. And that is the reason that I want to keep employing the no-till method to try and prevent the weed pressure, because obviously if we are doing less work in the soil, if we are disturbing the soil less, the weed seeds don't come up, the soil is healthier, it's more resilient, and the weeds don't have to come up to fix the soil that we've already broken. So that is why I'm choosing no-till and weeding. So this whole thing was about weeding. So I'm excited to weed this year. The next goal that I have for 2025 is actually implementing the 2-minute rule. What I mean by that is if I see something, if I have a task and I know it's going to take 2 minutes or less, I'm just going to do it. Just do it! With this, I know that there's going to be some things that are really easy to do, and others, they may be a bit more complicated, but they're still going to take under 2 minutes. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to focus on making sure that I am able to get these little things done, whether that's weeding, whether it's picking up a few sticks and putting it in the stick pile, taking something to the compost, fetching the eggs. It's something that is only going to take a few minutes. I need to do that pronto. I need to make sure that I focus on doing that, because that is going to help me get things done. I'm pretty bad at procrastinating sometimes. And so I need to make that a focus this year. I need to intentionally do things more often that I need to do, because if they're only going to take 2 minutes, do it. I'm going to do it. So I count on you to make sure that I'm accountable to this. I want to focus on this to make sure that I'm keeping up with my tiny tasks, whether it's in the garden or in the house. That's going to be a goal for 2025. The last goal that I have for 2025 is actually to go ahead and go through the documenting process when I'm doing things in the garden. This is a struggle. This has been a struggle for the last 4 years. It's not always easy to think of a shot, to grab the gear, to go ahead and set up the shot, and then hit the record button. This is going to be my goal for the next year, to be more intentional with actually grabbing my gear and pressing record. And I believe this will pay off in the end, because I'm going to get to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to be able to look back on all the things that I've done, and this alone will give me a sense of accomplishment and be able to just see how far I've come in the year. I'm excited to have you alongside me, but I want to know if you are excited to actually follow along with me. So if you're excited, if you want to see what I'm doing, you want to follow me through my journey here in Hungary, then please subscribe, and we're going to walk through this journey together. And if you want to see me talk about anything specific, any topics, whether they're garden related or not, then I'm happy to take your suggestions, because part of the documenting process is finding things to actually document. Being inspired to walk through a process. I know what I want to do, but I want to know what you want to see. So with that, this is the end of the video, and I thank you very much for coming along with me and learning with me on my journey here in Hungary. We'll see you next time.